Hello,
Hi, Andy.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was good. What about you?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I'm fighting something, so felt like I spent a lot of the weekend fighting something.
Yeah,
How are you feeling?
good. Yeah,
Good.
we're pretty good. Yeah, Joey. Oh my, no.
Nice.
Don't worry, I'll fix it.
Okay. Thank you. I got to get you to help me with the screen background sometime, Joey, just to spoof everyone.
Okay.
That'll be our secret project. Not so secret because I just set it on Zoom, but oh, that's an offensive background.
Yeah, that's worse.
Ah,
Same with that jersey. I noticed that right away. I was
oh,
like,
a new
oh
sweater
man. Oh
day.
no.
Wow. Oh,
Oh, might have
didn't
to
know
put you
I
in
would
there.
You can't defeat me,
back
Andy. You can't defeat me.
on. How's it going, Ryan?
Got this one too.
Oh man, so many options. So I think we're just waiting for Abby and Sam. Kasena said she can't make it today, so just waiting for those stragglers. Is everyone out of quarantine? Oh, Han, so sorry, buddy. There you go. Absolutely. Yeah. How are you going to celebrate? Same old. Hi, Han. Okay. Good, good.
This was definitely uncoordinated.
Oh, wow. Is this like a
We just happened to both. No, we didn't.
Oh,
Joey, you're wearing your Bruin stuff?
love it.
Yeah, I know. You are too, bro. That's crazy.
Okay. So good. Love
What?
the. Oh, wow. Okay.
I think I'll go Joey style on this one. Oh yeah,
All right.
let's just do this. Perfect.
All right. Happy for you guys to keep your backgrounds up as long as this does not carry on through our seminar, because we have a different war to talk about other than the Leafs versus the Bruins. Excuse me. Okay, so we're just going to launch in today, and we're really picking up with the Treaty of Versailles because that is what has caused things to be where they're at with Germany. So we want to kind of refresh our memory with the Treaty of Versailles and go back to some of the policies that were put in place by the Allied countries who dictated to Germany the terms of that treaty. We talked about how severe they were and really how they would have ramifications, which we're going to see play out now. So I'm going to screen share and we're going to walk through kind of the introduction to World War II. You have some sheets in your packet, I hope. I wasn't able to do up the packet with my own hands, which I usually feel better about. I had to send the packet to be printed. So can you look now in your binders to see if you have some fill in the blank sheets on, just let me pull it up. Not that one. On, maybe it's called On the Brink Again. So if I'm gonna screen share,
I only have the really big package that starts with like the writing an obituary page.
Sorry, Sam, can you show me that
It's-
again?
It's the page after the obituary, on mine anyway.
You're up
Okay,
on the brink again.
Sam, I can't see that because of your weird. You're
That's
like
the correct
invisible.
word. That's the right word. Weird. Weird.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Ryan, for being helpful here. Let me just, yeah, that's it. Ryan's got it. So it's on the brink again. Perfect. So if you could pull that up,
So
and
is
I
it just
lobbed
that
it to
page,
you
then
so
all of
that
it behind?
you just need to fill in those blanks as we go through this seminar. Joey, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Is it all of the notes in that package except for the obituary page for history?
Is that all the notes in the package? Is that what you're
So
asking?
yeah, so it's a really thick package, but it starts with the writing an obituary page, and then the rest of the pages after that are for history in the duotang.
Okay, yeah. No. I don't think so. Just let's just do it one session at a time. Sorry, again, I wish I could have put it together myself, but I was quarantined, so I just had to send it all. So I'm going to screen share, and we're going to go through our seminar, and you're going to fill in the blanks as we go. Okay, so on the brink again, you're going to write down anything that's underlined in your blanks there. Anyone know who this is right here? You can type it into the chat, or you can take your microphone off.
Is it Mussolini?
You got it. Do you know what his first name is?
Benito.
Yeah, Benito Mussolini, and we've got Hitler here. So these two are really tight. We're going to see that. And down here, this is the Japanese embassy. And we see the German Nazi flag, and we see the Italian fascism flag here. So we'll know that those three are allied against the Allies, for lack of a better way to say it. So really important photos here that kind of symbolize what's going on in these few years. This is a photo of the League of Nations, and this is the Chinese representative, and he's talking about Japan having invaded Manchuria and asking the League of Nations to help push Japan back. And we're going to see that there are some dire consequences to what the League of Nations decides about that in terms of how that plays out. And then we just have here how Italy and Germany are annexing. So expanding by force, just saying, hey, you belong to Germany, let's reunite. Or, hey, you're really Italian, you've just drifted a bit, let's make you part of Italy again. So they're annexing countries in Europe. And again, we're going to see what the League of Nations does or doesn't do about that. Okay, here we go again. World War I was called the war to end all wars. But by 1939, we're on the brink of another war. Dictators have taken control of many of the countries, and the League of Nations had proven powerless to change or control events. So spoiler alert right there. We're going to see the League of Nations, which was really the precursor of the UN. It was this formation of countries voluntarily getting together in order to try to avoid war in the future, try to be able to talk things through, maybe have some other countries help talk things through. So that was formed after World War I in the hopes of never having another world war again. Japan and Italy. So because of the global economy, most developed nations were hit hard by the Great Depression of the 1930s. So unlike past times when it wasn't really a global economy and each country could really only trade with their neighbor countries because of food spoilage, because of poor transportation, lack of railroads, all those things in the millennia up until this point, it wasn't a global economy. So any kind of financial difficulty was simply faced by that particular country or the surrounding countries. But because we were starting to ship things to other countries and they were shipping things to us, the Depression had a massive impact globally. So every developed country is facing a depression. After World War I, most nations involved were struggling to recover. So they're already in a deficit position, struggling to recover, struggling to mobilize for peacetime and switch over factories from munitions to now cars and tractors and things like that. So both Italy and Japan turned to territorial expansion to alleviate the economic downturn. I'll explain that in a sec, but I'll just let you get that down. So both those countries turned to expanding their territories, annexing and expanding to try to pump new resources and money into the economy. And both pushed the limits of the League of Nations to expand their empire. So this is where we're talking about annexing, which is taking over another country against their will, saying, no, no, you belong with us. You're really part of us. But they were doing that in order to improve their economy. Okay, failure of the League of Nations. The first example of the failure is Manchuria. I'm just going to flip to my next slide so you can see where that is. So it is in the top corner of China. And you can see its proximity to Japan. So we're going to see that the Japanese wreak some havoc in Manchuria in this top kind of corner of China there. So by 1931, the industrialized Japanese economy depended on raw natural resources from China, especially Manchuria. So because Japan is an island nation, it's small, it lacks a lot of raw materials. So Japan creates a crisis in Manchuria as an excuse to invade. So they create this crisis, which we're not going to get into because it doesn't have a lot to do with Canadian history. Fascinating though. They create a crisis and then they invade it to say, we need to like quell this crisis. We need to make peace here. We need to get involved. But they really just wanted that northern territory for its resources. China, remember that picture I showed you on our first slide? So China sought the League of Nations to help stop the invasion. China knew exactly what Japan was doing, went to the League of Nations and said, they've created this crisis, but they're really just trying to take over because they need these resources. Would you get involved and try to push them back to Japan? So the League of Nations condemned the invasion, so said, Japan, you're out of line. You shouldn't do this. You need to withdraw. But they didn't do anything. So Japan leaves the League of Nations in protest because it doesn't like that they've said you're wrong. But the key to kind of take away from this is the League of Nations kind of like verbally condemned it, but did nothing else. So sent no troops, didn't take any like trade embargoes or anything like that to forbid countries from trading with Japan. They simply said, you're wrong. You shouldn't do that. You need to withdraw. Didn't enforce it. So that's lesson one, Manchuria in the League of Nations. We've seen this slide here. And this is, again, China pleading with the League of Nations to help. Okay, lesson two. Once again, the failure of the League of Nations, Abyssinia, which is what we know today as Ethiopia. So after World War I, Again, Italy's economy is struggling to recover, was made worse by the Great Depression. Join the club. That's what is happening to everyone. So part of Mussolini's plan to inspire Italian people and distract them is he wanted to build a new Italian empire like the ancient Roman Empire. Something that we're going to see with our dictators, excuse me, that we're studying, excuse me. This isn't a Bruins cup, just so you know. Something we're going to see with our dictators as we go through this is they have grandiose ideas for themselves and their people. And by grandiose, it borders on crazy. Like there might be something unhinged in them. But because they provide hope and a national identity, people are kind of willing to buy into this imaginative world of theirs. So we're going to see that over and over. And so Mussolini's crazy is he wants to create a new Roman Empire like the last Roman Empire. So he wanted to expand colonial possessions starting in Africa, which is Abyssinia. So this is the Roman Empire at its height in, like, I don't know, 100 AD, something like that. So this is, Italy. But the Roman Empire had Britain, or much of Britain, Spain, all of this. And so Mussolini wants to, this is Italy of 1939 or 1930s, and he has annexed Albania, and he is now taking over Abyssinia. Okay. So in 1935, Italian forces invaded Abyssinia using tanks, machine guns, airplanes, and poison gas. The Abyssinians had spears and very old guns. Haile Selassie, Emperor of Abyssinia, appealed to the League of Nations, who agreed Italy was wrong, but did nothing else. So their country is being invaded against their will. This is not an agreement, yes, where they've said we would like to become part of Italy. It's like a colonial thing. We talked about before World War I, how that was how you became a world power, was you colonized other places. So that's basically what Italy is trying to do again under Mussolini, is develop an empire beyond just small Italy. Again, we see the League of Nations say you're wrong, but they sent no troops, and they did nothing to discourage Italy from continuing on. So we see that Britain and France did not interfere because they wanted to keep Italy as an ally against Germany. Remember that Italy had done that flip-flop in World War I. So they'd started out against the Allies, but then partway through the war, just sort of joined the Allied forces. So we can begin to see why the League of Nations didn't do anything, because politically they wanted to keep Italy on their side. But we're going to see, of course, hindsight is 2020, so we want to be careful not to be too prideful and go, oh my goodness, of course you could have seen this. We're going to see this all throughout, the appeasement of Hitler. And we're going to wonder why they didn't act sooner. But we also have to remember how devastating World War I was, and how everyone really just wanted to avoid that 20 years later. Okay, so here we have Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. All right, so now we're going to get to Germany. After World War I, we talked about the Treaty of Versailles had ended World War I, but no one was happy about the way peace was settled. The Allies believed they had won the war, but gained little. So again, the devastation of World War I and those reparation payments Germany was required to make did not solve that France had been bombed into oblivion, basically. And so their economy, their cities, all needed to be rebuilt. Germany believed that they had been treated too harshly. Section 231 of the Versailles Treaty is known as the War Guilt Clause, and it forced Germany to accept the full blame for the war. So we talked about that, and we mentioned that's going to cause a problem later on. So here is that War Guilt Clause, once again, that the Allied and associated governments confirm and Germany accepts the responsibility of Germany and her allies for causing all loss and damages to which the Allied and associated governments and their nationals have been subjected as a consequence of the war imposed on them by the aggression of Germany and her allies. So there's the War Guilt Clause. It's all your fault. You got to make it right somehow. So there's an anger in Germany when the terms of Versailles are made public.
Sorry, could you go back to 2 slides back? I didn't get that last blank.
Oh, sure, sorry. This one?
One more back. Got it.
Okay. So many Germans didn't want their representatives to sign the treaty, but they had no choice because they couldn't restart the war. That's why they had surrendered in the first place. They were done. So they had no choice but to sign. But the German people felt betrayed by their government. And instead of bringing peace to the world, Versailles just planted seeds of anger and conflict. Okay, really important to note something on the hat of the person stabbing this German soldier. Someone tell me what is significant about that in this political cartoon.
The Star of
Isn't that
David,
the-
the Jews symbol.
Right. So this is actually, you're going to tomorrow watch a video about kind of the precursors again of World War I, but you'll see more information on Germany. And one of the things that Hitler believed, and this was part of his crazy, is that everything bad in the world stemmed back to the Jews. So World War I was their fault. The failing economy was their fault. Everything bad that happened to Germany was because of the Jews. And
I think that's a woman.
yeah, thanks, eh? So a Jewish woman. So that is something that as Hitler begins, he doesn't come out and say that. It's subtle, but we're going to see it become more and more a part of his platform. And German people agree to that because of what he offers in exchange. And so I believe that this is the Chancellor of Germany. And so this is, again, a political cartoon where people believe they were stabbed in the back by their own leaders in signing the Treaty of Versailles and the War Guilt Clause and assuming reparations payments. So the Treaty of Versailles has changed the borders of many European countries. But this new map of Europe created tensions. The plan had been at the end of the war to give those national groups, remember, we have Serbians, we have Hungarian people, we have Austrians, we have a whole bunch of people who are identifying as their own national group, wanting their own nation. And so part of the treaty plan had been to give those groups their own country. But as they began to do that, they found it was impossible to please everyone. Many Germans felt cheated when their homes were moved to new countries like Poland. So Poland was given its own country, but it had been part of Germany. And those people, some of those people living in Poland identified as Germans, not Polish. So it became impossible to please everyone as they tried to make right some of these things. So just briefly having a quick glance at that map. I've got another couple maps that are, I think, clearer. So we'll land on those for studying a little more detailed. So the Great Depression had led some people in countries like Italy, Spain, and Germany to turn to dictators to solve their problems. People wanted leaders who would offer them hope for a better future, no matter the cost. So we need to remember Germans felt betrayed by their chancellor, felt he was weak, that he just rolled over and took whatever the Allies forced him, made him to sign. They were angry, they were resentful, and they felt shamed. So when Hitler came on the scene, promising to make them a great nation, promising to get back some of the territory that had, they believed, been unfairly taken from them, they were willing to support him, and they did that wholeheartedly. And then later, as his anti-Semitism became clearer, they again were willing to overlook that for the sake of, or maybe they even began to believe, yeah, the Jews were the cause of all the problems. So we're willing to go along with that because of the prosperity that he promised.
Who was the Spanish dictator?
Sorry, Joey, one more time.
Who was the Spanish dictator in this period of time?
Franco. Why do you ask?
I was thinking Fidel Castro, but that's Cuba, right?
Cuba, yeah. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So conditions are really bad after World War I to pay reparations. So remember, everyone's struggling, but Germany is struggling, and they have to somehow pay for the damage of the war. So to pay for reparations, the government printed huge amounts of money. But as that gets infused into the economy, it makes it almost worthless.
My grandpa actually used to have some of the money from when this was happening.
Really?
Because his mom or grandmother lived in Germany or something like that, or in Holland. And then people were just like throwing them out into the streets because it was like useless. So she took some and gave it to him. And then his entire coin collection got stolen.
Ah.
But they're like really valuable now because there's like hardly any left.
Right. Interesting. That's fascinating. And we're going to see some photos of what people did with the money because it was worthless. So this idea of creating more money because you need more money actually devalues the money. It's sort of an economic principle that maybe they learned the hard way here.
The same kind of thing happened in South Sudan.
Sorry, once again?
The same kind of thing like this happened in South Sudan. because their money is like worth nothing.
Yeah,
So
it's something that Cuba has tried, Mexico throughout their history, that we need more money, so we print more money, but then you end up needing thousands of pesos just for things like a loaf of bread. So we see that here, that in 1918, right after World War I, a loaf of bread cost $2 or marks. By 1924, it costs 6 million marks. People struggled to survive when the Depression hit. Things got even worse. So this is 1924, when a lot of countries like Canada and Britain are starting to rebound. They're making cars, they're making tractors, there's innovations. Germany is not rebounding like that because the money they're making doesn't go back into their economy. It's going to pay an impossible war debt. Sorry, where are we here? Okay, so here, these are real photographs. German children playing with stacks of money, not blocks, but stacks of money. This guy is got a wheelbarrow and he would like to buy a loaf of bread. This woman is burning money for heat. And this is a $1 billion note. So
when you have to buy a plane ticket, so you bring like a wagon.
What's that?
Full of cash. When you have to buy a plane ticket with this money, so you have to bring like 100 billion marks.
Yes. Okay, this guy is wallpapering with money. So we see, like, it's like Monopoly money. It's literally like Monopoly money. So Hitler and the Nazis promised to fix everything. He begins pumping out this ideology that Germans are the master race. They're meant to rule the world. They're smarter, they're better, they're faster, and they should rule the world. They should rule over other people. It should be a privilege for other people to be under the Aryan race. His message is extremely popular, and he is chosen by the people. So he's elected to lead Germany in 1933. So January 30th, 1933, he is elected. He immediately removes the previous government and starts with his own system of ruling through the Nazi Reich or empire. So there will be no what we would think of as a House of Commons or a Senate. There's nothing like that anymore. He removes all of that structure and he basically sets himself up as a dictator. He and his party will rule Germany. So here is some propaganda we see of racial superiority on stamps. So we see this is 1938. This is like the new people, the Volk. So that's where we get Volkswagen from. It's like the family, the people. Again, we see ideal family. What do you notice about the color of hair?
They're all blonde and the kid's in a Hitler Youth uniform.
Yeah, he's got his Hitler Youth uniform on. Lots of kids, again, like they're trying to sell this ideology. And it doesn't take much to sell it because the people of Germany are really low. So these are symbols you're probably familiar with. So once in power, Hitler completely ignores the Treaty of Versailles. First, by building a large, powerful army. He stops making reparations payments. And lastly, he takes control of Austria and part of Czechoslovakia. Again, I really encourage you to develop some short forms for yourself for like Austria or Czechoslovakia, just shortening those. So in response, world leaders tried to bargain with Hitler, wanting to avoid another war. They believed him when he said he just wanted to make Germany whole again. So his argument was, I'm just taking back what was ours previous to World War I. These are German people. I'm just reuniting the German people. So they were reluctant to agree to this, but they did not want to engage in another war over these territories, which kind of were part of Germany before World War I. Okay, really important here as we think back to the League of Nations. After witnessing the League of Nations' inability to stop or refusal to stop Japan or Italy, Hitler comes to believe that he won't be stopped. So he watches Japan invade Manchuria and he watches Italy invade Abyssinia or Ethiopia. The League of Nations says you shouldn't do that, but they do nothing. And so he figures, he takes a gamble and figures they're probably not going to do anything if I try this. So a Rome, Berlin, Tokyo axis is formed. In 1938, Germany annexes Austria and Czechoslovakia. And in 1939, he invades Poland. 2 days later, Britain, France, Australia, and New Zealand declare war on Germany and its allies. Canada, remember, Canada is her own country now. She's not simply a dominion of Britain. Canada doesn't declare war right away, but independently declares war a week later. Okay, so this really briefly shows us this is Germany in 1935, and these are what it annexes through 1938 and 39. And then also is going into Poland in September 1st, 1939. And that is when the Allies say enough. So it let him take Czechoslovakia, let him take Austria, but the invasion of Poland is the last straw. And Italy had taken Albania. Okay, again, those two. Remember that Japan is part of that threesome now. And again, just there's the Japanese embassy flying the Italian, German, and Japanese flags. Okay, so we need to wrap this up really briefly. What you have in your packages are maps that, let's see if I can pull up. Here we go. Okay, so you have Europe before World War I, so 1914, and then you have Europe after World War I, 1919. You have a page in which you are drawing some comparisons and contrast between those two. So I would like you to work on that in the remaining time left in this period, the remaining 20 minutes. I will still be available online if you have questions. Tomorrow's independent period is a video to watch with some questions to answer, and it is already posted. Remember, Wednesday, you have your then and now due. Again, please reach out if you have some questions or you're unsure about how to ace that, because I really want you to do well on that because it counts for a lot in your 1920s, 30s unit. Okay, I'm going to get cut off here momentarily. So I will see you in English at 1:15. All right.
It's just the before World War I, after World War I kind of map thing here.
Yeah,
for the
and then
countries, that's all we got to do.
There's a page where you're making comparisons that should be after that. Do you have that?
The left,
I didn't see it.
Can you?
The map analysis Europe before and after World War
You
One.
got it. That's
Okay,
it.
yeah, got it.
Perfect. That's the
Awesome.
one. Good job,
Thanks.
team. Okay. See you soon. Bye.